Okay, well, welcome to our Wednesday Bible study, and it's always good to come together and study and have fellowship with one another. Let's keep the Brown family, Hope Brown. I can't think of all the boys' names, but let's keep the Brown family in our prayers. Is it Ernest? Is June? Junie? Okay. Let me see.
I think our text said his name was Ernest.
Ernest.
Care.
Yeah. Let's keep Ernest in prayer. He's in comfort care right now, and so we definitely want to keep him in prayer, and the whole family as well. Earl, one of the brothers is named Earl, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, they gonna get me on Sunday for not remembering their names and everything. And then to our family, church family, our church picnic is Labor Day, and excuse me, there is a sign-up sheet for food items to bring, and want to remind everyone to sign up for that. And this coming Sunday is Friends and Family Day, and we've done well the first two, and we hope that we'll have a good crowd this coming Sunday as well. Psalm 23, and we want to look at verse 4. Psalm 23 and verse number 4. The whole psalm, the whole 23rd Psalm is familiar. I started to say that this might be the most quoted verse of Psalm 23, but then I got to thinking about the other verses, and I don't know which verse appeals to you the most, but we finally got to verse number 4, and I want to spend some time talking about walking through the valley of the shadow of death, and I want us to look at that and try to make some application to it as well. So those who are watching online, we hope that you have your Bibles, and those who are here in person, turn to their Bibles. On the screen, it says Psalm 23 and 3, and it really should say 23 and 4. I just didn't make the correction. But this is part 6. This is we're in the 4th verse, but it took us 6 lessons to get to verse number 4. And I really could probably get what I want to do today is just talk about walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Well, I'll probably talk about fear no evil, and when we do come back, we need to spend some time on the rod and staff, and how the shepherd uses the rod and the staff to comfort the sheep. So we might get at least 2 lessons, and maybe 3. We could stretch it to 4 out of verse number 4. So we'll just see how the Lord works with us, which way the Spirit moves on today. So let's read as a group the 23rd Psalm, starting with verse 1 and all the way down to verse number 6. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And I always say amen to that. That's good words. What you're going to notice when we get to verse 4 is a shift from the third person to the second person. Now, you notice in the first 3 verses, David is doing the talking, but he said, the Lord is my shepherd. So that's third person language. I shall not want. He go back to the first person. He makes me, so now we're going from the third person to the second person. And what you'll find in verse number 4, David is not simply talking about the shepherd, but he's talking to the shepherd. And I just want to make a distinction there. There's a difference of talking about and talking to. You can talk about God, and we should talk about him. I don't have any problem talking about the goodness and the greatness of God. Oh, something happened yesterday, and it was like I was going to my classroom, and there was an officer a few feet ahead of me. And she was just singing, my God is awesome. He can move the mountains. I said, sing it, sister, sing it. and then I told her, her back is to me. And I said, if I could carry a tune, I'd join in with you. But this was like early in the morning. And she's just singing, my God is awesome. He can move the mountains. Then I think I just spoke a verse because I wasn't going to embarrass myself because I can't carry the tune, but I spoke it. And so that's talking about God. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we should, now that I heard her singing that song, in my mind, next time I talk to her, it's going to be about church now. She just going to open, and she didn't know I was behind it. She just really, we're getting ready for the morning, and she's getting ready to sit at the control desk. And so probably in her mind, I got to deal with these inmates. My God is awesome, And I'm thinking I got to go in the classroom, and I don't know how they go act today. But that's talking about God. And everybody should talk about him. But there are going to be times when we need to talk to him. So this is what David seems to be doing here. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you, see, now he's talking to him. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now, think about the times when we talk to God. Well, man, before I get into application, let me do a little bit more exposition. When David talks about walking through the valley of the shadow of death, he's referencing the dangers that shepherds go through leading the flock. They have to go through valleys. They have to go through dangerous areas. They have to go through areas where there may be predators, there may be wolves. It's not an easy journey. It's a dangerous journey. And if you look at the progression of the first 3 verses, they've gone from green pastures and still waters, but now they got to go through the valley. And the journey is not easy. It's not an easy journey. So keep all of that in the back of your mind, that David is looking at what he is going through as a shepherd and what he has gone through as a person. Now, I want to read verse 4 from 3 different translations, and it helps me to kind of get the impact of what this verse means. In the Message Bible, which is not really a translation as it is a paraphrase, but here's here's the paraphrase. Even though the way goes through death valley. I'm not afraid when you walk by my side. Your trusted shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. So this is David's thought, perhaps, as he's going through this dangerous valley, as he's going through this area where he could lose his life. He's going through this area where not only could he lose his life, but he could lose some of the flock. Some of the flock might get killed. Some of the flock might be injured. So he and the flock could lose their life or could be injured. So the Message Bible, even though the way goes through Death Valley, I'm not afraid when you walk by my side. Your trusted shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. Brother Michael, Brother Delane, get me Psalm 138 and hold verse number 7. I'm going to read that in just a moment. The contemporary English version reads it like this: I may walk through valleys as dark as death. Let that soak in for a minute. I may walk through valleys as dark as death. Now, keep in mind, the end result is death here. The concern is death. I'm going through this valley. I'm going through this crisis. I'm going through something, and it could end up in death. All right. The NIV, the New International Version, uses the phrase "through the darkest valley." Now, what I want us to be thinking about is there are seasons in life that all of us go through. And we don't always go through it at the same time, but we go through seasons of life. No one lives on the mountaintop all the time. You're not on the mountaintop all the time. The only time we're going to be on the mountaintop is when you get to heaven. But underneath heaven, there are going to be some valleys that we live in. I was trying to find this reference and I couldn't find it, so I'm going by memory. And I think Brother Humphrey Fouts brought it out one time, and he compared life to like fall and winter and then spring and summer. And in the fall of life, certain things happen in the fall period of your life. Certain things happen in the winter time of your life. And springtime might be the beginning when we're first born. We're young, we're impressionable. Everything looks good. I remember when I was young, I didn't know my family had problems. I didn't know that. I didn't know they had problems because they took care of it. All I had to do was get up, put my clothes on. Matter of fact, Ashton, there was a time I can remember. There was a time when my mother laid my clothes out, but I can remember the transition when she told us we need to pick out our own clothes. Yeah. Did y'all lay out clothes for your kids? Okay, all right. But then there comes a time when you get to a point, you're grown enough now to choose your own clothes. So you go from spring to summer, and then summer to fall, and fall to winter. And it's a transition, but those seasons of our lives sometimes are dark. It's a valley. And I'm gonna be transparent in a moment. And sometimes when you're in that dark place or in that dark moment, it seems like a lifetime. It seems like time is suspended. You get through the day, but it seems like it takes forever for you to get through the day. I mean, things just slow down. It's almost like on pause, and everything is in slow motion. Well, that's an emotional response that I just shared. But in Psalm 138 and verse number 7, I think that references darkness or valleys or moments. Anyone have that? And okay.
Though I walk in the midst of trouble,
Yeah.
you will revive me. You will stretch out your hand against the wrath of my enemies, and your right hand will save me.
All right. So it talks about trouble, Lord, in the midst of trouble. And the emphasis there is when trouble comes, God is there to rescue us, that God is there to save us. Well, let's talk about this valley of death, this dark journey that could result in death. As I put this together, this old song that we used to sing came to my mind. Farther along, tempted and tried, we oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. And then verse 2, when death has come and taken our loved ones, it leaves our home so lonely and drear. Then do we wonder why others prosper, living so wicked year after year. Verse 3, faithful till death, said our loving master, a few more days to labor and wait. Toils of the road will then seem as nothing as we sweep through the beautiful gate. And then farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. And then here's the verse. Cheer up, my brother. Y'all see that? Cheer up, my brother. Live in the sunshine. We'll understand it. We'll understand it all by and by. So, okay, why? why my loved one? Why my partner? Why my child? Why, not to make light of it, but some people are close to their pets, and when their pet die, they grieve. It's a grief process for a pet. And you may say that's not the same as a person. And of course, a pet is not the same as a person. But when you have an attachment or a history with a person or with a pet, and you want that person or that pet or whatever to be around forever, then reality has to kick in. None of us are around forever. We're not going to be here for an eternity. But then part of us might just wander through the mind or go in one ear and out the ear, or you may not even think like this, but why? Why now? If we're up in age and we pass, we expect that. But there are times when babies die or young people die. And the question may come up, why? Well, there is an answer to the why, but I think what David does is he reminds himself that as he goes through Death Valley, and watch this, church, he has to go through it. He can't go around it. He has to go through it. I want to get this. There are times when we want to avoid situations, and sometimes going through the situation is absolutely necessary. You could take an easy route and avoid it, but there are some situations that you just gotta go through, and because one of the things that it does by going through it, it causes us to depend on God. Because this is exactly what David is saying. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, And the reason I'm not afraid is not because I'm great. The reason I'm not afraid is not because I went and studied how to handle this situation. The reason I'm not afraid is not because I have some resources that I can fall back on, but the reason that I can walk through this valley of death without any fear is because God's rod and staff give me comfort. Well, that's part B. Before the rod and the staff, David said, "For you are with me." Everybody see that? I can go through death's valley. I can experience death. I can handle what I'm going through because God didn't leave me. He was with me before I went through the valley. He's going to be with me as I go through the valley. And he's sure enough going to be with me when I get on the other side of the valley. Can I get an amen? I feel like I'm saying something here. What David is saying here is what I said is that it's good to go through the valley because you learn to depend on God. It helps you to get what helps you to get through whatever you're going through is the fact that God was with me. Now, as I go through what I'm going through, whether it's a valley of death, whether it's a valley of sickness, whether it's a valley of unemployment, whether it's a valley of a broken relationship, I cannot just focus on the circumstance. I've got to focus on the person who is with me as I go through the circumstance. Am I making any sense? You know, I gotta go through here. I can't go around it. I can't. Well, sometimes we do hold it up. Now, you know, I gotta go through this, but I ain't ready to go through it on Wednesday. Give me. Can I wait till Saturday? You know, Lord, just hold it, just hold it a little bit, Lord. I ain't ready on Wednesday, but if you give me just a little more time, by Saturday or maybe next week Wednesday, if you can delay it, I can get through it. But what I'm really trying to say is, all of us have to face what they call the vicissitudes of life, the vicissitudes of life, and vicissitudes is just a big word that means an unseen or unforeseen circumstance. There are unforeseen circumstances that happen in life. In ministry, there are unforeseen circumstances. I'm a minister. I've done this for over almost 50 years, and it ain't always easy. Man, you know, trying to preach and serve, and I'm not asking for sympathy, that kind of thing. I think what happens though is before we go into ministry, we're just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We have no idea of really what we getting into. We think that I thought that, man, everybody come to church and everybody love the Lord, and folk are just like I am, just eager and want to win souls and just can't wait till Sunday morning. And it can be a rude awakening, but that's a valley. It's a valley of ministry. Sometimes marriage there's a valley in marriage, you know, that some people go through. And I think Adam and Eve were the first couple, and I'm pretty sure Adam and Eve didn't get along 24/7, because as human beings, we may handle it different. There was a couple in Memphis, and this guy, he was a little older than I was. Great song leader. He was a great song leader, and it was funny. He got sick, and I would go to the hospital and visit him. And the nurse said, I wanted to know, was he my daddy? And he wasn't that old, but he and his wife, she said, Well, out of all the years we've been married, and I'm trying, I don't want to call his name, but all the time we've been married, he never got angry with me. He just never got, and he just had that kind of demeanor. Now, she didn't say he never got angry. She just said he never got angry with her and mistreated her. But there can be valleys in a marriage relationship. And so ministry and then marriage, then we have midlife crisis. You can get to a point in life where, okay, you're at this midlife, you see your body changing, you see that your thoughts are not as clear as it used to be, and you at this point of life where you might think, I haven't done everything I want to do, and I got to do what I want to do before I get too old and can't do what I want to do. Y'all ain't saying nothing, but the brothers know what I'm talking about here. You get to a midlife crisis where you want to sleep through the night, but you can't sleep through the night like you did when you were 20 and 30, because you got to get up 3 or 4 times during the night during your midlife crisis. And am I telling on myself? Okay. And you go through this midlife crisis of, okay, if I don't get done what I started out to do, time gonna be I'm not gonna be able to do it. So sometimes folk will hurry up and try to do some stuff. Now that was for the brothers, but for the sisters, menopause. Menopause can be a valley. It's a biological change. It's something that's going to happen, and you can go to the doctor. You can get whatever medication they have, but you got to go through it. There time you don't want to. It's too hot in here, and then it's too cold, and don't touch me, and stay away from. Now, sister, just nod your head. You ain't got to say amen, okay? It's a valley. That's a vicissitude of life. Then it could be money management. Sometimes we, find ourselves in a situation that has overwhelmed us. So when I say vicissitude, I mean a change of circumstances. And that change of circumstance is typically for the worse. Well, what does David say? Or what does David say our attitude or our approach ought to be when we come to the vicissitudes of life, when there's a change of circumstance? Okay, the breadwinner is no longer here. My child is no longer here. I'm not able to function physically because of health challenges as I was. All of those are changes of circumstances. And what I see in verse number 4 is that God is able to provide the emotional security and the emotional stability and the spiritual security and stability. God provides that when we go through life-threatening situations. Now, we got to remember that. And I want to change my tone. It's good to remember that when we go through Death Valley, when we go through circumstance that's going to affect a change in the way that we're living our lives. Life ain't the same. I can't live in this fairy tale that life is the same, because life ain't the same. It's not the same. Doesn't mean that it's worse. You wouldn't say it's better, but we can say it's not the same. Well, the darkest valley that the psalmist is talking about does not mean that David died. Oftentimes I've looked at this text and I thought, well, David is going to die in the valley. No, what it means is he finds himself in a situation where death was a distinct possibility. Now, it could be physical. He's not dead, but he could die. So when I talk about ministry or marriage or midlife crisis or menopause or money management, you don't want to die when you go through that. If you're in ministry, and if there's any preachers who's watching, and this is off the text, but Paul told Timothy to endure hardness as a good soldier. So you don't go to war think and deceive yourself that there won't be any hardships. Yeah, there are some, but thank God if you're around more spiritual minded people, they can relieve some of the hardship. They can make hardship not as hard as it should be. So that's what you want to get. But life is not always characterized by green pastures and still waters. It's not, we come to church sometimes, we act like everything is fine. And I'm not saying that you come and be sad. You don't show what you're going through or on your face. But sometimes we can't have good church because we're hiding behind a mask. We're hiding behind a mask. I saw a sister in tears this Sunday morning. I saw another sister hugging the sister who was in tears. And what I'm saying is the mask, take the mask off. Don't take the mask off. We come here to get some help. We come here not to get a fix so much, but we come here to be reminded that as we go through the valley, as we go through this valley, we don't have to be afraid. Okay, how am I going to get through? How am I going to do this? I'm not used to doing what he did. I'm not used to doing what she did. How can I fill these shoes? Well, always go back to Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Now, every preacher who deals with Psalm 23 and 4 will always say, notice what David said. He walked through the valley. Don't stop and stay in the valley. Are y'all with me? You go through the valley. It's almost like Seattle, Washington is up in the Northwest, and nobody passes through Seattle. I mean, you're not going through Seattle on either you're going to Seattle or you're coming from Seattle. Now, some folk may pass through Hopewell to get to Petersburg, or you may go through Hopewell to get to Emporia, or you may go through Hopewell to get to Surrey County. You may go, if Sister Rice was here, I'd tease her, you may go through Hopewell to get to Zuni, you may go through somewhere to get to the country. But what David said is, I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death. I do not plan to stay here long. Are y'all with me? If I'm depressed, I ain't gonna stay here long. If I'm sad, I'm not gonna stay here long. If I'm overwhelmed, I'm not gonna stay here long. If I'm nervous, I'm not gonna stay here long. If I'm frustrated, I'm going through. Man, I'm talking to myself. I'm going through this now. In the valley, there may be frustration, there may be nervousness, there may be some sadness and unhappiness. I expect that's what's going to happen. If you live long enough, we are not immune to the vicissitudes of life. You can be a child of God. You can be a faithful child of God. You can hold your peace, not hurt nobody, not do anything wrong, and still you got to go through the valley. The thing is just don't get stuck in the valley. Focus on walking through. How am I going to get through this valley? Well, David says, don't be afraid. And the scene here is the shepherd leading the sheep through a narrow gorge late in the afternoon. This is the valley of deep shadows. I heard somebody this morning. I got up this morning and listened to a guy, and he made a real good point. So I don't want y'all to think this is original with me. I give folk credit. He said, in order for there to be a shadow, there has to be a sun shining. If the sun was not shining, then there would not be a shadow that could be cast. Are y'all with me? So instead of, don't focus on the shadow, but you got to focus on the sun that causes the shadow to appear. Everybody see that? All right. I didn't get 100%. You see that? Okay. All right. Now, what happens is, in life, there's a valley of deep shadows, and sheep would be so timid and defenseless that sheep would get afraid of their own shadow. Now, get this, Arlington Road, brothers and sisters, get this. That's your shadow. That's your shadow. But sheep can get so defensive that when they see their own shadow, they get afraid and frustrated. So the sheep have to trust the shepherd. And as long as they can see the shepherd, they can feel comforted. So that's why I say, when we come up in here, the atmosphere, everybody can't be sad and depressed at the same time. Somebody got to give somebody else some encouragement. Help me, somebody. Man, when I'm standing up here in the pulpit and sometimes I'm looking, and sometimes I just got to look at my Bible, because sometimes I can tell some folk ain't got enough sleep Saturday night. They not know. Some folk is like, why did I come? Some folk, and the poor song leader, I know how our song leaders feel if we don't sing along with him. Everybody can't be like that, and then we expect we're gonna have a good worship service. And I don't want to tell our brothers who serve and that kind of thing to fake it. But what I am saying is, sheep need to be able to put their trust in the shepherd to get them through the valley. What I want us, and this is a vision cast, I guess, what I want all the members of Arlington Road is, I want you to come here to get a word and leave with that word to help you through the week. I want you to be able to say, I got a word, and the word may come from the song. The word may come from what a brother said in his prayer. The word may come in Bible class, but you got to leave here. Hey, I can get through the valley. I can get through this valley. I can get through this period of where unseen circumstance or a change of circumstance, and it may seem like it's for the worse. And because, oh man, I'm into my Sunday sermon, but I'll say this, but because of my hope in Jesus, because of what Jesus has done, I can make it till tomorrow. And when that next day comes, because of my hope in Jesus, I can make it through this day to the next day. Everybody with me? All right. So what happens here is the sheep gets frightened on their own shadow, but they trust the shepherd as long as they can see him. As long as they can see him. As long as they can see him. As long as they can see the shepherd, they're comforted. They're in a scary place, but they will fear no evil because they are with the shepherd and he leads them. So when I lose a loved one and he's not there, I lose a loved one and she's not there, where do I get my comfort from? Because he gave me my inspiration, or she gave me my inspiration. I got my encouragement there. So you got to look up. you're not looking around. Everybody with me? You're not looking around to people per se for that source or that inspiration or that boost or that shot, that shot of enthusiasm that you need. You got to look up. You got to look up. I think that's what David is saying. Yea, and if I was preaching this, I'd show you how, yea, even though I've been led through the path of righteousness for his name's sake, yea, though I walk through still waters, yea, though my soul been restored, but now I got to go through the valley. I got to go through the valley of the shadow of death, but I can go through it confidently. I can go through it courageously. Now, this may get me in trouble, but even with the students that I have, I'm an instructor, but I'm a preacher. So every now and then I get a chance to preach to my students, and talk to my students. And I told one person who's getting ready to be released, I said, you got to love yourself. You got to learn how to love yourself, and you got to learn to get to a point where you have confidence in your ability, where when you get out, you ain't coming back here. You are not coming back here, and you got to be able to trust what God is trying to do with you now. Now this may get me in trouble for telling y'all that, but I try to give them some Bible and that kind of thing with the reading and the science and math and social studies. Yeah, I'm gonna give you those 4 subjects, but look, you got to learn that if you put the shepherd first in your life, you don't have to fear no evil. You don't have to be afraid. You can be courageous. Now, I'm talking to brothers and sisters in Christ now, and what I'm saying to us is life can put you in a scary place. You can be, it can put you in a scary place, but you and I have to be where David is. I'm going to walk through this valley. I'm going to get through this. I got to get through it because of who I belong to. And I'm going to get through this with courage. I'm going to get through with bravery. My health is not what I keep going back and forth to the doctor. I got so many emergency room bills now, but I'm going to get through this because the Lord is my shepherd, and he's walking with me as I go through the valley of the shadow of death. That's all I got for you. I mean, I can't make it say more than what it's saying, but that's what I got for you today. You got to go through the valley, but you're not going through it alone. He's with you. He's going to stay with you, and don't get scared of your shadow. And I think I'm going to come back with my students and talk about that. Don't be afraid of your shadow. That's your shadow, but there would not be a shadow if the sun wasn't shining. When the sun stops shining, then there is no shadow. Like I got this light on right here, and the light reflects. It's giving a reflection. Y'all can't see it on the table here, but I'm seeing my hand on this white sheet of paper and right here but if I turn this off, then there's no reflection. Don't turn off the sun. Don't turn off the light. Just remember that he's with you and he's not going to leave you. And then next week, we'll talk about the rod and the staff, how they give comfort. But any comments, any questions, questions? I walk through the valley, and farther along, we'll understand it better by and by. I lost my mother at 13, and then I just, why? I keep asking why, then my baby brother and baby sister never got to know their mom, and their life was a whole lot different than my sister and I. And then they grow up not knowing who their mother was, and then they have to hear stories from us, of how she was and what kind of person. But you get through it. You get through it. That's why we come to Bible study. That's why we support the worship service. That's why we read scripture, and it's a reminder that he's with us. Okay. All right. No comments, no questions, no testimonies, anything. Everybody got it? I hope I helped you. Can't make it say nothing other than what it's saying. And just go through it with courage. And what we go through is like a season of life, and you don't stay in the valley. We get to the mountaintop. Okay. All righty. I wish I come on at nighttime and watch it as well, because sometimes the people interact at night. And then when I listen to this at night, other things will come to me. I said, man, I should have made this point. And sometimes I put things in the chat. And so maybe those who are watching tonight might have some questions or anything like that. Okay. All right. So again, let's keep the Brown family in our prayers. And also Friends and Family Day is this Sunday at 10:15. And then we'll be into Labor Day on Monday, and our church picnic is at Scott Park.